greed, hatred, and delusion, but something I do for their to make their mind calm, relaxed, and peaceful. So the person used that skill to create something to not only get money, but also to help people to relax and be a kind of support for their spiritual growth. If the person convert that all these thoughts into that creation, that will be a good thing. But if the person think of in a greedy way, that may not be very wholesome. So that is what I must tell this person. Okay?
Thank you, Bhante.
Mm-hmm.
Next question. How are ignorance and volitional formations transferred with or without a vehicle?
Well, ignorance can be transformed into wisdom or understanding. The counterpart of wisdom, ignorance is wisdom. So one has to develop wisdom, practicing mindfulness meditation, and gain concentration. With these two aspects of meditation, the person can get rid of ignorance. And volitional formations, I'm going to spend much time on this topic maybe later tomorrow. Volitional formations has various aspects, unless ignorance has only one. There's no alternative to ignorance except the opposite is wisdom. For volitional formations, there are several like wholesome, unwholesome, imperturbable volitional formations, and some volitional formations bring happy rebirth, some volitional formations bring unhappy rebirth and make life prolong in samsara, and some volitional formations lead to liberation. So it has a variety of sort of options, unlike ignorance. So ignorance, however, is the basis of all volitional formations that produce results. So this is the difference between these two.
Okay. Thank you, Bhante.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Dear Bhante, how can we start to reduce asawa, given that it cannot be completely removed until one becomes an arhat?
Okay. Answers we can reduce slowly and gradually by restraining your senses. That is called in Pali Indriya Samvara. Samvara means restraining. There are various Sila Samvara, Sati Samvara, Virya Samvara, Jnana Samvara, and these are kind of sangvaras, restraining with mindfulness, restraining with practicing moral principles, uh, developing our wisdom, that is Gnana Sangvara, and virya means we have to make a special effort, fourfold effort that we Buddha has listed in the Noble Eightfold Path. The uh, first effort is to prevent uh, unwholesome, unwholesome mental state arise from arising. Second is effort to overcome already arisen unwholesome mental state. Third is arousing wholesome mental states, making effort. And then fourth is make effort to maintain and sustain already arisen wholesome mental states. And this way we gradually develop our insight in order to uh, prevent these unwholesome states arising. And all this is called restraining. So influxes uh, can be reduced, weakened, and make it disappear. As we do not feed influxes again and again, influxes themselves become weak and disappear from our mind. Of course, that doesn't happen very quickly, but that is the way. First, what you call, it's called gradual training. Anupubba Sikha, Anupubba Kiriya, Anupubba Patipada. Gradual training, gradual striving, and gradual practice, and then we achieve the results. Anupubba Sikha, Anupubba Kiriya, Anupubba Patipada. And this is how we train ourselves to prevent asava coming in and also weakening and eliminating them. One may, sometimes we hear people say, by attaining enlightenment, you overcome asavas. Not by attaining enlightenment, you overcome asavas. It is just like putting the cart before the horse. By eliminating these asavas, we attain enlightenment. Not by attaining enlightenment, all this vanish like magic. It doesn't happen that way. So we gradually train our mind to reduce these influxes slowly and gradually. As the weak fade away, as mind becomes clearer and clearer, we are very wise, and then with that wisdom, we attain arahanthood, or the goal. Once we attain the goal, they already have overcome before we attain enlightenment. So that is how it happens.
Bhante, can you explain the 7 underlying tendencies and how the 7th tendency of ignorance supports ignorance?
Yes, that I try to answer that question after this session, because now we have almost 1 minute to start with answering questions. I think we better start our recital and so forth.
Whoops. It's not offered. Let's see.
Okay.
There it is. Let me start this one.
All right. You all can see the translation of Metta Sutta. All right. Now we start our practice. You may look at your screen, and we all do recite this together. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth, may all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere, neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another. As a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hate or resentment, whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desires for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. With this metta thought, let us begin our practice. This is the meditative environment we have to create in our mind, especially with metta. For today's situation, wishing all beings peace, happiness, and freedom from suffering. Then we start focusing our mind on our breathing. The purpose of this is first to share metta with others, then practice mindfulness and gain some concentration. With these three stages of practice, we want to clean our mind, make it very pure for us to gain additional strength to wish all living beings be free from their suffering. Now we start our focus in the mind on our breathing. While breathing in, pay total mindful attention to your breath. Notice in the beginning, middle, and end of each inhaling and each exhaling. Then notice as your lungs are filling with air, your feeling changes. As lungs are emptying of air, feeling changes. That means you feel feeling of inhaling, you feel the feeling of exhaling. In between these two, there is a brief pause. There is no time even this mental stage to arise or notice because it happens so quickly. So what happens is you become aware of the inhaling and exhaling and pause in between. And then you notice the feeling of breath, the perception of breath, volition of breath or thought of breath or attention to the breath and consciousness. We have no time to name them, conceptualize them, but we just keep breathing, being aware of what is happening. So don't try to verbalize since we don't have time to verbalize while being aware of what is happening. And then gradually mind becomes calm, relaxed and peaceful as the body and breath become calm, relaxed and peaceful. This happens slowly and gradually. Then our mind becomes free from hindrances temporarily for during this practice. When the mind is liberating from hindrances such as greed, resentment or anger, restlessness and worry, sleepiness and drowsiness, and doubt. When we overcome them, mind becomes even more relaxed and calmer and more peaceful. And then we gain concentration after overcoming these hindrances. When we gain concentration, there arises in our mind the sense of letting go. Letting go actually is a very natural happening even without our awareness, because when breath arises, it naturally passes away. Along with that, our feeling, perception, attention, consciousness also change, pass away, disappear. As they disappear, we cannot bring them back. That is what is called letting go. We are without trying to hold on to them. And then arises metta, true loving friendliness, when the mind is relatively clean and pure. That is the very good situation for metta to become stronger. And then compassion arises, joy arises, happiness arises, and we gain concentration. When we gain concentration, with the concentrated state of mind, we see the very minutest, subtlest changes taking place in us. This, in short, is how we gain insight. pattacha niddukha bhayak pattacha nibbhaya soka pattacha nissoka hontu sabbe pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be. This is our very sincere, earnest wish. We want all beings to be peaceful, happy, and free from suffering, especially as we notice through various media that this virus is spreading, devouring every country in the world, and it is so painful to see, hear about it. We want to develop our metta to and wish all of them to be free from pain, suffering, and these afflictions, and all those who are supporting them in various capacities, doctors, nurses, and their helpers, medical professionals, people who are specialists, who are trying to invent or discover, find out some vaccine to stop this or to cure this permanently. Those who are supporting them financially and otherwise, all of them be well, happy and peaceful and live long in very good health. This is our earnest wish. Friends, if you have more questions, we have few minutes to answer.
Bhante, please explain what.
Yeah, there was a question earlier asking me to
Right.
explain
The seven underlying
seven
tendencies
underlying tendencies.
and how ignorance supports itself.
Right. Number one is aversion. Aversion, anger, hatred all come under this mild term aversion. From aversion arises, when aversion is not taken care of with mindfulness, then it gets its support from other factors of unwholesome underlying tendencies, and it becomes stronger. When it becomes stronger, it becomes anger. Anger, if we don't take care of it, become hatred, then develop grudge, and so on. Therefore, we, as I mentioned earlier, we have to restrain our senses to reduce our aversion. The way to restrain, I mentioned Sati Samvara, Virya Samvara, Jnana Samvara, and Sati, Virya, Jnana, and forgot the other one. Restraining ourselves. Then we reduce it. And then the next is lust. Of course, that also is uh, remaining in our mind as a very subtle, dormant mental state. And it keeps getting its support from other underlying tendencies and becomes strong if we do not take care of with restraining. Then views, when the word view is used without any adjective, it means wrong view. If it is right view, it is clearly stated that it is right view. In fact, right understanding. Views here means various type of wrong opinions on various things, especially the Dhamma. Uh, Dhamma, Kamma, rebirth and so forth, various views we have, they may not be very active in the dormant state. Then doubt, as I mentioned earlier, doubt has now 3 levels. One is very, very deep, subtle level, even below fetters. Fetter is one of the doubts. Doubt is one of the fetters. Hindrance is what you call doubt in hindrances also is a hindrance. So we can see the doubt in 3 places as anusaya, underlying tendency, as fetter, sanyojana, and as hindrance. Now, under all these things is anusaya, which is the last to go. Then conceit, mana, comparing oneself with others in various ways. I am inferior to so and so, I am equal to so and so, I am superior to so and so. Like that, we use ourselves to measure us against others. That is called conceit. But the conceit also is a very subtle underlying tendency which will be destroyed just before the attainment of full enlightenment. Mana, uddhacha, avidya. Ruparaga, aruparaga, mana, uddhacha, avidya. Mana is one of the higher fetters. Fetters are divided into 2 categories, heavy fetters and subtle fetters. So this is one of the subtle fetters that remains in the mind, and only when one attains full enlightenment, just before that, not after attaining full enlightenment, just before that, this underlying tendency called mana or conceit will disappear. Because that is the stage where the person's understanding of impermanence is complete. As soon as the understanding of impermanence is complete, even conceit will vanish, along with the notion of I consciousness. Then desire for being, that is called bhavatanna, desires of being or becoming, is another underlying tendency. Gross desire is called desire or lust, greed, and so forth. This is very subtle underlying tendency. Here we can see both lust and what you call desire for becoming or being. Lust is for the sensual pleasures. Desire is for becoming or for being. That is to be a human, to be a divine, to be a better person, to be a Brahma, and so forth. There will be a desire that is called desire for being. And then finally, ignorance, called avidya, that is also the last of higher fetters to disappear from the mind. And actually, it is ignorance that supports all the remaining 6 underlying tendencies, because ignorance is so powerful. As Buddha said, the samsara, or the repetition of birth and death, the beginning of that samsara is indiscernible because of ignorance and craving. Ignorance blocks our view, our understanding, and craving or desire bind us to re-becoming. The desire has a special quality which has been mentioned in Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, Satipatthana Sutta, and so forth. It is called Tanna Pono Bhavika Nandi Raga Sagata Tatra Tatra Binandini. Pono Bhavika, it is craving or desire that makes repetition of life possible. Pono Bhavika. Nandi Raga. Nandi means delighting or enjoying. Raga means clinging. It has the tendency to cling to things. Tatra Tatra Binandini. It delights here and it delights there. When it delights here, and then the delight wears out because of the nature of impermanence, and then it delights something else, and then delights something else. And each time desire tries to cling to that object that it desires, and then it loses the what you call clinging. It cannot cling to anything. And then something else arises. Then it tries to cling to that. Delights and cling to that. Because when the desire encourages the individual to cling to it because of the desire, and but it disappears. So that is the nature of desire. Trying delight here, cling to here. Delight there, cling to that. Delight this, cling to that. And that is the nature. And therefore, it has this name, Tanna Porno Bhavika Nandi Raga Sagata tatra tatra binandini. So these are the 7 underlying tendencies. All of them are supported by ignorance. That is why dependent origination says that when ignorance disappears, then entire mass of suffering comes to an end. Avidyayatve vasesa virag nirodha. By the complete destruction of ignorance without remainder, when it happens, then entire mass of suffering crumbles, disappears, and never arise again. So that's how ignorance is so powerful. I mentioned this morning two of the 7 fetters. Number 1, belief that there is a permanent self. Number 2, doubt. Number 3 is attachment to needless rules and rituals. The Pali word is very rich in meaning. Pali word is Sila, Vata, Paramasa. Sila, when you hear Sila, sometimes people might think it is the Sila that you observe, 5 precepts, 8 precepts, and so forth, Sila. That is not the kind of Sila mentioned here. It is called Akusala Sila. There's a discourse called Samana Mandika Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya. That sutta makes a distinction between Kusala Sila and Akusala Sila. Kusala Sila is the principle or regulations we observe to liberate ourselves from samsara. Akusala Sila is the principle that people observe that would lead them to binding to samsara. They will be bound by that observances. That's called sila. And paramasa means attached to it. Sammasana is reflection. Turn back to see whether we have made any mistake to correct, and then we try to correct it. That's called sammasana. This is called paramasana. So, sila, vata means various observances, paramas. So, somebody who becomes attached to this akusala sila, unwholesome habits and unwholesome observances, thinking that by doing so, they can attain liberation. And that is another fetter which they don't want to give up because they are so much attached to them. And these are the 3 fetters that gradually leaves our mind when we continually practice our mindfulness meditation, whether we are at work or in retreat centers or monasteries or wherever, whenever we practice mindfulness meditation, friends, to practice mindfulness meditation, you don't have to sit in one particular place. Whenever you see impermanence unsatisfactoriness and selflessness for any even a minute. If you see even one of them, even for 1 minute, you are developing your insight, and like this you increase your awareness of the reality, impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and selflessness. And uh, so you keep practicing, increasing your faith in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha and sila, morality, and develop your understanding of the Four Noble Truths, Noble Eightfold Path. If you keep doing it again and again and again, these fetters, one by one, will vanish from your mind. That is how we train this. When we destroy these three fetters uh, completely and we attain the stream entry, uh, that is called the first level of enlightenment. These are three of the five heavy fetters. They are called Oram Bhagya Sangojan. Oram means down to earth. That means heavy fetters. So once we got rid of these heavy fetters, the rest is very, very easy. These are the main powerful fetters that keep us being to samsara again and again. Once these three are destroyed, our future attainment is 100% guarantee. So with this, friends, I want to conclude this evening's session. And once again, I want to wish all of you peace, happiness, liberation from samsara, especially those who are suffering this COVID-19. And we all together want to wish them good health, free from this COVID-19 virus, and return to their normal, regular health and live long in good health. Thank you. Good night. Have a very wonderful night and see you tomorrow.